You know what time it is. You know what time it is.
How firm thy friendship. Oh,
you know what time it is. Come brawl with them boys of the fall. You know what time it is. On the ground with a nose for the ball. You know what time it is. Blood, sweat, and them tears for this game. Leaving it all out on the field with no fear for you lames. Yeah, you know what time it is. Come brawl with them boys of the fall. Covered in gray and scarlet, massive, stiff arms to your jaw. We breaking it. We sick of seeing you clowns with the crown. We taking it.
What up, Buckeye Nation and College Football Nation, because I know you're in here. Welcome to the Buckeye Boys, where we talk about college football, cheaters, and any other news that comes up, man. We're excited for tonight. If you haven't read my title, the investigation is over. The NCAA has made their final decision on the penalty for scum, so we have the list coming up for you of exactly what they're getting. Adult, man, that's a lie. Don't hate me for the title. It's April Fool's. I just wanted to be, just a little bit there, a little bit. That's my only April Fool's joke I've done all day. We lost 2 subscribers over it, I do believe, which means it was a good April Fool's joke. I consider it a winner. But Spiro's joining us, obviously. Mello's in the house. Spiro, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing well. I think you're fine. That's like the one day a year where you can use a clickbait headline shamelessly. So you took the opportunity. The calendar says what it says, and I have no problem with it. I think you're good. Anyone that would leave you guys over that was not in your corner to begin with. But I'm doing well.
Yeah. Hey, man, Mello, how you doing today?
Man, I'm good. Can't complain. We got the man, the myth, the legend in here, Justin Spiro, the most hated man. Him and Kirk Barton, I believe, are the 2 most hated people in the podcast Spear. So I'm glad they're here to piss off some other people.
I prefer polarizing. I hate it. It depends who you ask, but
yeah,
for whatever it's worth, the feeling's mutual on the other side. I hate them right back. The people that hate me, I for the most, a couple exceptions, I hate them right back, and probably 10 times as much as they could even muster against me. So I'm happy to talk about all of the reasons why, and I'm looking forward to you asking, because I love this topic. This is my favorite topic lately. I love seeing people get their comeuppance, and I think this is coming for them. But we'll talk about that, I'm sure.
Spiro, you like my new spit cup, man? I obviously chew tobacco on a show, not professional, none of that. But I am who I am. So I had a listener send me this cup. Just had the M on it, and I just wrote sucks, and I also wrote cheats on it, and then I spit in it every show, and it makes me feel good, dude. It lets me get that stuff out. You know what I mean? But
that's how you're starting to make some traction. Like when people start sending you stuff. I had a guy in Michigan, huge Michigan State guy, alum, sent me a license plate that he actually used for a year with the Michigan logo on it. Like, 'cause you can get that in the state of Michigan. You can get Michigan State or Michigan or whatever. It's the Michigan logo, and it just says cheaters. It was his actual license. He used it for a year, then wrote me a nice letter. It's in the other room. I got to grab it at the end and show you. So I love getting that stuff. Like I've gotten shirts from Ohio State fans like multiple times, and that's the best is when people are like, "Hey, appreciate what you're doing. Here's this souvenir. You got a spit cup." I mean, whatever. It's the thought that counts. I don't really care what it is.
Hey, man. Yeah, I know.
I appreciate the appreciators.
I had a guy, his name Aaron. He sent me a plaque, man, a custom Ohio State in the shape of the Ohio plaque. It was fire, man.
Oh, yeah, I got to give him my address so I could get mine. I was just thinking about that the other day, and then I forgot.
Yeah. If you're in the chat, man.
I hesitate to give my address out. I mean, I got Michigan fans leaving me Zodiac letters. I mean, I didn't plan to even bring this up. I got
what?
You guys didn't see this on Twitter? I shared this.
No, dude.
Yeah, a Zodiac. It's got like a cipher. I could only decode about a third of it. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm not threatened enough to even bother.
I'd have burned that.
Seriously, they showed up at my house. A Michigan fan published my address. Like multiple times. It wasn't just one. He was like in every thread posting screenshots of my house with the full address. And then it was like 36 hours later, there's some Zodiac letter on my porch. My wife was like, she found the whole thing very disconcerting. I was like, whatever, these dorks aren't going to do anything. And if they do, frankly, I want to die anyway. Look at my football program, but I digress. Anyway, Zodiac letters aside, I hope you guys are doing well. I feel good to be in the presence of true champions. I have a lot of Michigan friends, for better or for worse. And I hated being in the presence of that fake aura, that fake glory that they had stolen. So it's good to be in the presence of true champions. I wish I were one, but that aside, at least I get to keep company with them.
Yeah. We appreciate you coming, man. If you're in the chat, take this time out, share this feed on your X account, your Instagram, your Facebook for us if you would. Like it if you already haven't, and get in the chat, man. Have conversations with us. I keep my eye on that thing every once in a while. But I know before the show we talked about a few things. Mello had something very interesting to bring up to you, kind of a debate going back and forth, maybe get a little heated from time to time. But Mello, start us off with the goods, man.
So I have to bring this up. I got a team up north friend, let's say it like that. He's a good dude. He just roots for the wrong team, and he's from Ohio, which is the crazy thing. But he was saying, man, Spiro's only jumping on the Ohio State bandwagon and doing all this stuff because team up north has been putting a hurting on Michigan State the past few seasons. And he was like, I bet you he doesn't even really care about what's going on, and he's just angry because it's the team up north that's doing it that's in trouble. And he's like, do you really care at all, or is it just because it's the team up north?
I have so much evidence of my disdain for their game and their nonsense that predates anything with this scandal, that predates Connor Stallings even being there by many, many years. So the idea that there's some new origin of disdain for them and everything they represent up there, or just about everything, is absurd and demonstrably false. Just look at my Twitter history. I love receipts. So it's just objectively wrong. As far as the logic of I'm teaming up with Ohio State because they're kicking my ass, I don't know where they're going with that. Is that like they post like the cuckold me? Is that what they're going for? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Ironically, and I've said this for a long time, nobody argued with me more about not Ohio State, but about Ryan Day specifically than Ohio State fans, including one of my good friends, Dylan, he's an alum. He's a diehard Buckeye. He's probably the biggest fan I know. You guys may see him on Twitter. He's the original.
I do.
Yeah. Good dude, good friend of mine. I was arguing about him with Ryan Day since I've known him. And it's not like a bandwagon thing. My opinion was that Ryan Day got a bad rap for a very long time nationally, certainly somewhat within your fan base, but more so outside of it. You guys really got stirred up at the end of this past year. It was enough with that loss to Michigan. I have in my bio, I'm not responsible for anything said during games, and I've always said that extends to right after a game too. I don't blame you guys. That loss sucked. Nobody saw it coming. I think you guys deserve some grace. That was awful. But for the most part, I've been arguing for years with just anybody that says Ryan Day sucks. So that was sort of the start. As far as it relates to the scandal, my program is a disaster. It's an embarrassment right now. Good history, national titles in our past, pretty damn good not that long ago, but for the past 3 years, a disaster. I don't know how bad you have to be to not make a bowl game in 3 years in this conference with our resources, but you got to be pretty bad and pretty inept in terms of operations. I was not that greatly impacted by Michigan's cheating scandal as a Spartan fan, and no Spartans were. If you even want to start it in 2021, Stallions was starting but not full bore. Well, it didn't hurt us. We beat them. You guys, for the entirety of that cheating scandal, were by far the biggest victims because you were stopped on the doorstep of higher glory and greater achievement every single year the scheme was in place. All three. That's 3 Big Ten championships, 2 CFP appearances, and who knows what happens if you have the higher seed and you're playing, let's say, TCU instead of Georgia. You almost beat Georgia.
Right.
And does your team get healthier with that extra layoff between 2 games if you do have to play Georgia? Are you even playing Georgia? Everything changes. So Michigan State, it's a 3-year cheating scandal. Year 1, we beat them. Year 2 and 3, we were so abysmal. Who cares? We weren't victimized by them. They would have beaten us anyway. You guys were in a different situation where that loss cost you everything 3 years in a row. It doesn't cost my school anything at any point. So I despise the principle of it. I think you can stand on what's objectively right and wrong in a just world, and that's why I'm going after them. But my defense of Ohio State is on two bases. One, I love your coach, and I always have. I love him more than any of you guys do. I've said that I've argued with Buckeyes for years, and that's all documented. I think he got a bad rep, and I think your program gets a bad rep up until this national title, and even now, at least in Ann Arbor, people minimize the Buckeye brand. I don't understand it. It's the best program since 2000. You know, if you want to call it since 02 with Tressel or 01, it's ridiculous to even argue. Alabama has had 2 dips where you've had 0 dips. So right. It's not just national titles. And if someone wants to really argue Alabama, okay, great. They're the top 2. But there's really no, to me, I'd rather never be bad ever and win 11 games in my worst year and still have 3 national titles. Not like you didn't cash in. Then have 1 or 2 more national titles and have these multiple dips where I'm missing bowl games, Alabama's hit like 5 bad seasons in the last 20 years. It's better than most schools, but you guys have 0 if we exclude interim coaches. So I just think on an objective, factual basis, Ohio State gets a bad rep for no particular reason, even before all this stuff. As it relates to the scandal, who was a bigger victim of this whole thing than you guys? Ryan Day's getting, and not just from the losing and the cheating, they're covering up of it, releasing and disseminating deliberate misinformation on purpose that is getting Ryan Day and his family receiving death threats because they're invoking his brother, which they know isn't true or certainly have no reason to believe is true. It was a rumor up there that they told their reporters was a fact, and that got disseminated. And now the guy's getting death threats because they're mad they got caught. Who cares if Ryan Day or his brother or his dog was the whistleblower? What kind of a defense is that? Oh, you're a rat? That's the best you got? Even if it were true? It's not even true. They made it up. So, he's a Buckeye. It's like, you guys win more than anybody else. You're the best program in America, and you have been since I was in middle school. That's a fact. And you're the biggest victims of this by far. Why would I not have a certain level of sympathy and empathy for your guys' situation on a competitive level, on a human level? Is it related to your staff and their family members getting threats because of this stuff, because they couldn't beat a team that was cheating? It's a long answer to a short question, but it's absurd to say that my origin story for disliking Michigan was a couple years ago. And it's absurd to say that Ohio State and my defense of them is based on anything other than 2 things: their objective success and the fact they were the biggest victims by far. If Purdue had won like you guys have for the last quarter century and got screwed on the doorstep of the championship 3 years in a row, I'd be saying the same stuff about Purdue. I like you guys. You're good Midwestern folks. Spartans and Buckeyes usually see a lot. They're aligned, I think, philosophically. That's not even it, though. You guys are the best program. You got screwed in this. And that's why I care so much. And I also like Ryan Day, but I like him more than you guys do. So that's a whole other argument. I will let you talk. I apologize.
No, you're good, man. That was good stuff. There's several things I could respond to in that. I agree, with everything that was said. But something interesting, though, is I know a lot of other college football fans, right? And you always hear this thing that the only people that care are Michigan State and Ohio State fans. Well, I just had somebody on my show yesterday, Florida Gators fan, okay? Does not have a dog in the fight, man. Good dude, man. Love him to death. One of my best friends. But we haven't talked for a while. He came on and I'm like, dude, tell me, is it just Michigan State fans or just Ohio State fans? What should scum get for what they did? And that's exactly the point that he made. He said that he wants him to get the death penalty. It's not going to happen, but that's what he wants him to get because of the human aspect of this. Nothing to do with the rivalry, nothing to do, but the thing that you brought up about how this affected Ryan Day's life, his family. Not only that, look at the players. Like, go down that chain of how. Just think, if you're a college football player at Ohio State, your life revolves around competitive excellence. You go, you prepare, you work your butt off, you study, and then you go on the field and you lose to an inferior opponent. And then what does that do to a real-life competitor? I played basketball. If I lost, I would cry and it was bad, man. So I can only imagine playing at that level. And this is just one aspect of how it affects somebody in real life. But that's what infuriates me the most about it. It's not the loss of the Big Ten title or not making to the sea. All those things make me mad. The lack of the success it took away from the program, and not only what he did to Ohio State coaches and Ohio State players, but the players from other teams that put in this hard work as competitors that want to do this thing for the rest of their life. And they got cheated on the field and they don't know it. So they get off the field thinking, oh, I guess my best isn't good enough. When in reality, it was. You just got cheated, man. They were cheating. They had an advantage that they were not supposed to have that you didn't have. So you can go down that rabbit hole a lot and talk about if, but that's what infuriates me. And in the same side, that's what infuriates me about the response of some of these Team Up North fans is they never talk about that ever. It always gets, it's never that. It always gets pushed off on some rivalry and they won a natty and a Big Ten and all this. And it's like, no, man, me personally, and I get if you're more upset about losing the Big Ten and you're not the natty, I get that too. But it's just like, dang, man, this affected people's lives. And you guys just keep brushing it off and brushing it off and brushing it off. And that's not reality. It's not a brush off type of situation to a college football player and a coach. You brought up the perfect example. Look what happened to Ryan Day because of this. And you can say we would have won anyway, whether we cheat or not. We'll never know because you cheated. So it's irrelevant.
Well, it's irrelevant for a number of reasons. For one, you're thinking with way too much nuance. These are the same people that I reported Connor Stallings was on the CMU sideline. Once people actually looked at the evidence, it was pretty clear it was. And they said it didn't even resemble him. You would have thought it, like I was saying, it was a Chinese guy or something. It's absurd. They can't even look at something right in front of their face and call a spade. They can't call the sky blue. You're thinking about nuance 3 or 4 steps down the line because you're intelligent and a thoughtful person. But that's not who you're dealing with here. So I don't be shocked. There's a lot lower bar for them to clear that they've been unable to clear on other stuff and other elements of admission. Good luck getting them to consider any of those things that you're talking about. You're right, but they don't even think that way. They can't see what's right in front of them. And even like Ryan Day in Ohio State. First of all, if you had a kicker, you win. There are kickers bombing from 50 plus. You miss 2.
Yeah, for sure.
That alone is like, okay, forget everything else. But even Ryan Day's loss this year, I would argue and attribute it to largely this mental block that he and the program have. Well, how did the mental block get created? So I get it. Eventually, pull your pants up, get the bootstraps tight, and win. They had no excuse. I'm not making an excuse. They should have won. And if they had a kicker, they would have. At the same time, even the mental block that he had that I would argue caused that loss was created by this whole cheating thing. Does that momentum ever even start? Does Ryan Day get it in his head? Is he that tense around the football building that entire week leading up? Is he telling people on TV and interviews that this is the worst thing that's ever happened to him since his dad committed suicide when he was a kid? I mean, he almost takes it too seriously because of all this pressure, which was applied from losses that I put in parentheses with quotation marks and 10 asterisks because I don't consider them losses, just like I don't consider what they did wins. But even now, after the fact, you can't even calculate it. And the problem is with this whole logic with, only Ohio State and Michigan State fans care. For one, it's demonstrably false. They certainly care the most, but who cares? What difference does that make? What does that have to do with anything? Oh, you care so much. Who cares and why? The facts are the facts. But irrespective of that, breaking news, rivals are the most mad at rivals doing bad stuff. I mean, what is the surprise there? I'm a UNC alum as well, went to Michigan State and University of North Carolina for my MBA. Guess who was the maddest about our fake paper class scandal a few years ago? It was Duke fans. Should I have said to these people, the only people that care are Duke fans? I mean, for one, it would be wrong, but they did care the most. But what does that counter? It doesn't mean I'm innocent. My school's innocent. It doesn't mean anything. It's not true. And it's just whining. It's one of those things where it's not true. And even if it is true, who cares? What's the relevance? And it's the same thing with, the cheating didn't help that much. It doesn't matter. There's no element in the bylaws. It'll be probably mentioned in their final decision from the NCAA, but in more of a summary form. There's nothing in the bylaws about how effective cheating was. Rules broken, yes or no. Anything else is just editorializing. And the final thing I'll say on this topic is the absurdity of crediting or dismissing the discrediting of their wins in 2023 post revelation of this scandal, which we were actually the first opponent in line and we got slaughtered. But they act like that win over you in 2023 was legit because Stallions had already been outed. That's absurd. Why? They won multiple close games in 2022. They should have lost to Illinois. They had Nebraska, where if they lose, they don't go to the Big Ten championship. They don't win the Big Ten. They don't go to the CFP. After 2022, which they cheated the entire season and barely escaped a couple games, you're telling me the scandal's not worth one play in one game all year? That's all it needs to be worth for this never to happen. Mm-hmm. They announced as part of their Champion Circle Collective, the Those Who Stay Fund. So it's an initiative under the umbrella of their collective, the official partner, that was based entirely openly. It's not illegal. This part's okay. Blake Corum's on the cover of the Money issue of SI talking about this stuff. We're so close. We've conquered Ohio State. We beat them twice. We won the Big Ten. We've gone to the CFP. We need to raise millions of dollars to keep these guys here, keep Corum here. They kept the article openly said it. 10 to 12 guys stayed because of this fundraiser. They don't have the momentum in the program to go to their donors and get yeses on the money they needed to retain that core. That core is not there. Now, maybe a couple of them, but at least half of them are gone. And even if it's one-star player, you guys lost by one possession when you were driving at the end. If they don't have that review to give their tired defensive line 6 minutes to rest, getting them a cord just in time, maybe that doesn't even happen. But they had 6, 7, or 8 players at least that they retained that they wouldn't have otherwise. And this is them saying it. I'm not even the one saying it, because they were able to fundraise off the momentum of the cheating season. So you can't divorce that, oh, Stallions is gone now. You guys have multiple players on the field that are only here because of the fundraising that was made possible by the cheating wins. If they lose to Illinois, which they should have lost anyway, none of this happens, and they don't win the national championship. So I don't want to hear that. It's an absurd argument.
Yeah, I agree. There's so many elements to this thing, like that element right there. Like there's elements that aren't a black and white element that the NCAA can hammer you on. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of this that it is aggravating. I trust the NCAA is going to do exactly what is needed to be done here. I have that faith that they will. But I just find that interesting, man. Mello, did you have something to bring up, or you want me to?
I got a whole bunch of stuff to bring up. We could just play it how we go. But in your opinion, when do you think we'll have some kind of closure to this whole saga? If you had to guesstimate.
Well, see, other than what's the punishment going to be, it's the most common question I get. I don't know, because the parties don't know. I mean, I get like shrugs from my Michigan sources when I ask. If I'm guessing, and someone will cut this up and make me look bad or something and cut out the part where I said I'm totally guessing, 3 to 4 months. But the problem is, I think it'll go on longer. What I mean by 3 to 4 months or less is the NCAA's decision. It could be a lot sooner. But that doesn't mean that's going to be what sticks. A part of this whole thing, and I reported it 11 or 12 days before Ross Dellinger did back in January, I reported this entire thing about the impasse and the nature of Michigan's challenge. Michigan's challenge, for the most part, is you guys, meaning the NCAA, are exaggerating the scale. You're exaggerating the degree. And this is an example of overreach. Like, you don't really have the right to enforce this, that, and the other. They're admitting components of the cheating, which is no one talks about. Most people don't understand. On the Michigan side, the school's admitting they cheated. I mean, that's not even a dispute. That's not the fact anyone even debates that's absurd. The school, which is the biggest propaganda arm I've ever seen in college athletics, even they're admitting it. It's just about scale and degree. So the component of this is, from Michigan's defense and their perspective, is the NCAA is overreaching. They don't have sufficient evidence to say all that they're saying. And with that in mind, the NCAA, if your entire argument is effectively you don't have the right to impose the types of punishment you're throwing out there, well, that's when you get into the discussion, okay, is this going to end up in court? I did report in January that both sides of this said They don't know how this doesn't end up either in court or some type of third-party mediation that could be negotiated where you agree to an arbitration. There's all sorts of different avenues, and I don't even know all the little ladders you can ride down in the bylaws. I've read it's voluminous, but there's not going to be a clear resolution here, and there's a clear line in the sand where the NCAA wants blood. Michigan's not willing to give it to them, and where does that land? So when I say 2 to 3 months or less, what I mean is the NCAA rendering their decision. I have no idea. No one can even guess how long it'll take if Michigan decides to challenge that. We don't know. I mean, the court system, it could be based on how busy it is in the county that week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with that stuff. So nobody knows. It's not about lack of knowledge. You could be the greatest insider in the world. You could tap everyone's phone and not know. So it's impossible to answer that. So I say it with the biggest grain of salt, like 3 to 4 months, I think, to get some clarity or less.
Yeah.
The people I've talked to think it'll be less, like 30 to 40 days. I double or triple everything they tell me, and that's been pretty spot on so far.
Yeah. Two things before I forget. Last time you were on the show, you brought up the court thing. People's biggest response to that, and honestly, people's biggest response to that is, well, if you go to court, then there's going to be a discovery and everything's going to come out in the open. That used to be my response as well, and why I think it's not going to court. Now I'm on the side of, I don't think they give a dang if it all comes out. I mean, there's pictures of Connor Stallions on the sideline, and people still don't believe that was Connor Stallions on the sideline. So a discovery could come out, and the people will still act like somehow the discovery is wrong, or they're being cheated, or it's not true, or something like that. So kind of speak on that, but I got to say the second part, it's really different, but if I don't say it, I'll forget it. If the NCAA makes their decision, is the punishment then invoked then, even if scum fights? You know what I mean? If the NCAA says, this is what you're getting here, here, and here, and scum says, no, we're taking it to court, does the NCAA still move forward with the punishment until it gets resolved in court, and then they decide whether to do it or not?
Yeah, well, what would happen in that case, and again, this is a hypothetical, but let's say that circumstance occurred, it played out like that. What would happen is Michigan has to go to a judge and request an injunction. Doesn't mean that they're ruling in favor of anything. The judge is going to look at it and say, okay, there's enough of an argument here to press pause. There would be a significant damage to Michigan, which I'm sure any judge would find if this is imposed. Doesn't mean injunctions are just granted because you asked. They have to have something to say, okay, this could potentially be an example of overreach, or, overstepping over their bounds, or what their purview is. I don't believe that it is. Everyone that I've talked to in compliance at other schools, mine being one of them, doesn't think it is, but that's how it would play out. So the punishment would be put in. It would be put into effect whenever the NCAA decides. What Michigan would do in that case would be go to a judge and try to get a temporary injunction, so everything just freezes. So that's gotcha. The answer. And from there, who knows? The evidence will be what it is. Mm-hmm. And the one other thing on that, and I was thinking about this the other day. We're assuming the NCAA didn't do anything untoward here in terms of the gathering of this evidence. Michigan fans have accused them of all sorts of stuff, and a lot of that's been debunked. We talked about one of them with Ryan Day's brother. There is another side of the coin where the NCAA is subjected to discovery, and if somebody up there did something improper in accessing some evidence here or whatever, that would or could come out too. I have no evidence of that or reason to believe that, but just like calculating, remember the other side gets to ask questions too. Did the NCAA handle this on the up and up? I have no evidence that they didn't. I have no reason to think they didn't. You're allowed to take whistleblower calls and information however you get it. It would basically be the NCAA like hacking or knowingly, being in cahoots with someone that hacked something, like where they would not want to be in court. But that's just speculation. I know what Michigan has to lose. I gave the NCAA the name of somebody who will not voluntarily betray his school and some of the parties involved, but will also not perjure himself if subpoenaed and has to appear and give a deposition. And he has the evidence of this being, which the NCAA already knows this. It's just this person has more evidence of it that's very damning, of the school paying for this whole thing. So Even forget all the other stuff. That fact alone, being subjected to deposition and coming out, is a reason for Michigan to run the other way. But on the flip side, if the NCAA is trying to hammer you, fight it. I guess fight it. I mean, they should have negotiated this last November, but that ship sailed. So I don't have the answer for you on what they should do. What you said is what I said up until November. Now, may as well fight it now, I guess. I mean, who cares? If they're trying to hammer you, who cares? No one's talking about death penalty anyway. If they're talking about vacated wins, which they are, and you don't want to give those up, see you in court. I mean, even if I don't like my position, better than just accepting it. So Michigan's in a bad spot is the short answer.
You just said two things that I have a question about.
Yeah.
Do you believe, because we haven't seen or heard anything from Mike Hart, do you think he's possibly the whistleblower? And also, what do you think the punishment is that the NCAA is pushing for?
As far as the first part goes, I was asked that, I think, when I was on with the Buckeye Scoop guys. And what I've said is I've heard names, nothing that I could report confidently. I couldn't clear anybody or affirm. The one thing I'll say is the Mike Hart, and this is, I'm pretty sure, unique to my reporting. Mike Hart, the issue there was, at least originally, and why he's not there, he and Sharon Moore do not get along. That's a mutual thing. They do not like each other. Some of the reasons why are off the record, so I can't say why, but it's nothing like no one was doing anything illegal or anything like that. It's just there's personal tensions there. And that was why once Sharon ascended, Hart was out of there. And I think it was pretty much mutual. Even if it wasn't, Sharon would have thrown him out. So there's no Hart blew the whistle and they got rid of him. That's not true. It doesn't mean he can't be the whistleblower, but I have no evidence of that. And I do know for a fact there was another reason why he's not there. So I understand why people think that, but I don't believe it's him. And there is a perfectly good explanation for why he's not there that has nothing to do with any of that stuff. It's a personal thing between the two parties. As far as the second thing, the NCAA, the death penalty hasn't even been discussed.
Right.
But that caveat, it has not, but caveat, some of this stuff in discovery, I don't know. I could make a great argument with what I know would come out if it goes all the way. And if the NCAA turns over the rock, I hand it to them. I digress. It hasn't been a component of the discussion yet. Vacated wins and a formal recommendation to the CFP to consider the status of their national championship. The NCAA does not have the power to revoke it, but the CFP has said things to the fact that they'll probably follow the lead. They're not bound to it. There's not even, as far as I'm aware, an infractions or enforcement arm of the CFP. It's a selection group. So there's no enforcement edict there. That's not what their purpose is. So it's kind of, which is a failure by the institution in the sport of college football. This was always going to be possible for somebody, even if it wasn't now, later. Someone's going to cheat and get busted, and you have to have a way to pull the trophy back like you did back in the day. So that's the answer. And it doesn't mean that that's definitely going to happen like in its entirety, because, if people are throwing lawyers around and Michigan says, okay, we'll give up some wins, but not all of them. Well, the NCAA could say yes to that. The NCAA is not going into this with, we're not giving an inch, but they're not giving up some of the real meat. And that's where it's a stalemate and has been since January. And that was what I reported this week is Michigan is growingly frustrated with the lack of progress. They thought it was something to do with their representation and they could finagle this and manipulate this and time heals all wounds. Things will calm down. We're going to get more conciliatory parties, lawyers with specialties in settlements. We're going to flip. And that was actually, I believe, your friends over at Buckeye Scoop were the first ones to report that, although I confirmed it, but that's to their credit. And they were right about that. They are frustrated that they have not made any headway. And the NCAA is basically sitting there with their arms crossed, just like, oh, we're not backing down. Yeah. Where was this conversation last fall and early winter when you could have done something about it? So that's the problem. I've said 1,000 times, I don't know what the final thing is going to be because the parties don't know. So if the parties don't know, I promise you, I don't know. The Buckeye Scoop guys don't know. Chris Ballas doesn't know. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
I'm reading the tea leaves, and it's not great for them.
Yeah. Before I get into a couple meaty things here, obviously there was an interview done on 3, and I not that this has anything to do with it. I despise On3, what they do to recruits, how they make recruits to be, and just the way they handle their business. And then they go and have Connor Stallions on, ask a bunch of light, easy questions. And to me, he sounds, I don't know the dude personally, but I'll say that he sounds pretty crazy to act like coming up with his, what's he call his, all his stuff he has. It's the what?
Manifesto?
The manifesto of creating a bunch of Google Docs together is some new strategy that he has now come up with. Google Docs been around for a minute. I have a lot of Google Docs. Okay. So I got a manifesto too, Connor. And then to say things like 95% of the teams know all the other teams' plays anyway. And for people to sit here and like listen to this and buy it shouldn't be surprising to me anymore, to be honest. But it just blows my mind. I couldn't even watch the whole thing. I'm like, is this really? What's the play here for on three? Was I know what it is. It's clicks, man, and it worked. You know what I'm saying?
Hold on, Dev. It's Con 3. Remember?
Oh yeah, my bad. Yeah, we tagged him Con 3 here on Buckeye Boys. But just quick thoughts on that all that nonsense, man.
Well, you answered your own question a little bit at the end. At least a part of it is, it's for clicks. But, for the record and in their defense, I would have them on, but it'd be a different tone. And I don't, as a matter of practice, I don't attack any of my guests. If it's going to be a contentious topic or, maybe not the whole show, but a topic might be contentious, I warn them. I don't give them a list of questions, but I'm like, hey, I got a problem with this, or I don't agree with you on this. I'm going to, I don't ambush anybody. But I'm not a moralist on my own show or with anybody else on guests or people you interviewed. I would have interviewed bin Laden on 9/12, not because I like Al Qaeda, but I mean, I'd be like, hey, what were you thinking? What's that about? What the hell? Like what? Why do that? What is your? That's like just being a journalist. I don't think anyone that interviews, Gaddafi or any, if you had interviewed Hitler in the 40s, I don't think it means you're a Nazi. It's so. I don't have any problem with anybody sitting with Connor. I would sit with Connor. It'd be a different discussion. I'm not going to criticize On3. I don't some softball questions maybe, but I'm not going to criticize them just for having them because I would have. But it just should not be taken seriously. You're talking about an individual. His answers, talking about an individual that dressed up like Groucho Marx to, I'm sorry, but trespass by legal definition on Michigan State property is in a Halloween costume. You're not dealing with the most honest, like straight up honorable guy. That alone, forget all the other stuff. So if you're putting Groucho Marx on and sneaking on the sidelines as a grown man, it's kind of funny. But you're not an honorable guy. Like, is that something an honorable, honest person would do? Like, I wouldn't even think I could even think about it. I'm not perfect, but my brain is not that corrupted where I could even try to get away with that. Forget the absurdity of it. And there's a number of examples of his dishonesty, and frankly, he's getting off on the attention. He loves it. He was winking at the camera and smiling, holding up the picture of himself. Like, this is not someone that should be taken seriously on this topic. So I don't have any problem with them having him on, but no one should take it seriously or anything he says seriously at all.
Well, we should start taking him serious. He's going to be the head coach of Scub one day. It's happening. So we need to start taking him seriously. I don't even think he believes
that.
There's no way.
He's playing a character. He's not a dumb guy. He's not.
No, he's not.
He's brazen. I think he's insane, but he's not stupid. So he doesn't really believe that. That's like being cute. I saw it. He's just being cute, and he's trying to be cute on everything. It's funny, and I don't know if you saw my edit on this. Maybe 2 months ago now. I played a portion of a voicemail I got from one of my Michigan guys, and I altered the voice because this guy's got a very distinctive voice. You can probably tell who it was, but if I didn't alter it, but he said in that voicemail, I think we're going to regret making this guy a hero, and that he doesn't say.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
Yeah,
that was in reference to he was talking about Stallions, and I couldn't play the whole thing where because there's some stuff that would be dead giveaway stuff, but he was referring to Stallions, and I agree. I think that's not going to age well, making this guy a hero. This guy is going to be arguably or potentially anyway the source of your whole downfall. I would argue it was Harbaugh and the whole corrupt administration. Take Stallions out of it. How many arrests and suspensions? It's like it's the most corrupt institution I've ever seen in my life. If you just stack them up, take your red hat off, take my green hat off, all that stuff. Just stack up the arrests and suspensions or forced resignations or firings of staffers. They're at like 11. So
is that just football?
Yeah, that's my thing. It's the whole athletic department.
You don't even want to get me started on the other stuff. Basketball, they got their driving the AD's car and crashing it in the middle of winter. You got hockey, who is lying. Their coach is lying about COVID test results because they wanted to go in the Frozen Four. They had a really good team, and he wanted to falsify results so they could play, which was ironically the complete opposite of their football team, where they didn't fake COVID, but they stopped enforcing their own protocols because they wanted no part of not just you guys, but even Maryland that year. They were embarrassed. They got walked by Wisconsin 49-11 in an empty Big House. And the next two games, Wisconsin plays, I believe it was Northwestern and Iowa, and scores like 13 points combined after putting 49 on them. Wisconsin stunk that year. They went into Ann Arbor, beat them 49-11, and they ran, I think it was like 42-3. It was a garbage touchdown at the end. And they quit on the season. So it's the complete opposite of what their hockey team did, where they actually did have COVID and they were trying to do their best. They got it anyway, and they were lying about the results. This isn't me saying this, although I did report it first, but I make everything up and I don't have any sources. The school's own investigation said this. And in light of that, go read it. It's on their website. They released it. It's their firm. It's their investigation found that he had done this. And Ward Manuel, their athletic director, what was his response? We're working on the extension for Mel Pearson. Are you out of your freaking mind? To their credit, their board of regents blew a gasket and said they were going to fire Ward if he didn't back down, to the point where this was a standoff for months. You can read the articles yourself where they're asking we're working on that. This was in the air here in Michigan. Like, what are they doing with this guy? Like, how do you keep this guy? He's harassing women, allegedly, according to their own findings. What are you talking about? And I give the Regents credit. They wanted him gone, and they threatened Ward. I'm the only one to report that, and that's true too. Notice I didn't get sued for that one because I'm right about everything. They said, Ward, if you don't back down, you're out. And he had to back down. That's who you're dealing with. You're dealing with not only a school that did that in the first place, but an athletic director that looked at all the evidence that they themselves found. You don't have to disbelieve it's Ryan Day's brother. It's you. It's your own team found this. And you're looking at this information, not even denying or disputing it. There's no dispute of fact. You're knowing that it happened. And not only are you not firing him, you're willing to risk your own job to keep him. What is wrong with these people? How crazy is that? These are all facts.
So on that note, I got a question for both you guys, but I want to first say this because you brought up a point to where it's like, what's the solution here, right? And I'm about to ask you guys a question, but you brought up a point where I was going to say, so where does this start and where does it stop? How deep do you need to go to clean this program out? But on that note, I want to answer for both you guys. What do you do if you're a diehard Scum fan? What's the reaction here? What are you supposed to do? What if your Michigan State basketball program did this? Mello, what if Ohio State football did this? What would be your guys' real reaction as diehard fans of these schools? What the heck do you do as a fan, dude? What are you supposed to do?
Truthfully, as petty as it seems, when Tattoo Gate, I remember when that happened, I was extremely angry. Like, dude, we had a team. Like, why would you throw everything away? We're on a upcoming to win a natty. I was extremely angry for a long time at the program. I wasn't sitting here saying bet or having the president say bet and tweet it out like a little kid and a child, but yeah, I was angry with Ohio State. I stopped watching for a little bit. Then they hired Urban Meyer, and I was back. But yeah, I was very disappointed. I never spoke that out in public, but yeah, I stopped watching for a little bit because of it.
Yeah, and that's the awareness you had over something that has no moral violation on anybody's moral code of note. Who cares? It wouldn't even be illegal now. It's and this is about basically an after-the-fact cover-up of a nothing violation for guys that were already in the program. It wasn't an inducement to come. These guys were already players on the team. That was your reaction to that. even if you had not had that reaction, and you know, props to you for your self-awareness in that moment, the normal fan reaction, I'll say, first of all, I don't know exactly how I would react because no one really knows. It's impossible.
Yeah.
You guys have some idea, but it's comparing those scandals is hard because there's 1,000 times worse, and it involves 9 people instead of 1 after the fact. But I digress. You can't say for sure, but what I think 95% of fans would do would be what some Ohio State fans did, what some UNC people did. You don't deny facts or reality. You kind of minimize. Yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal, whatever. Michigan fans do all that stuff. They do all the minimization that pretty much everybody else does for the most part. But they don't do just that. They deny objective facts. So Mello, it would be like him saying they never even got tattoos.
Right.
That's literally what that would be like him saying there never were any tattoos.
Yeah.
Like Tressel hasn't even used his email in 6 months. He didn't send any emails. He didn't fill out a form. Like, we have the form. He's like, Tressel's not even denying it. Tressel admits that now at first, but I mean, now downstream, Tressel's admitted it. The schools admit it. The guys have the tattoos. They don't have their pants or whatever they traded, their gold pants. So like, but they don't act that. So you would minimize it and say, in this case, it's actually a fair thing to say, come on, like, who cares about this? Is stupid. You'd actually be right. But let's say it was something a little more nefarious, but you wouldn't fundamentally deny the underlying fact. They do. They said not only is it not Connor Stallings, it doesn't even look like him. I still had people in my mentions as recently as 2 days ago or yesterday saying, we don't know for sure it was him. Nothing's been proven yet. These are people that looked at a person who was the person and said, not only is it not him, you're crazy if you think it bears the slightest resemblance to him. You're dealing with gaslighters, and it's hard to completely villainize them because in their defense, they're gaslighting themselves most of the time as well. Us and them. We're all victims of them. So I don't know exactly how I would react, but I guarantee I don't need to be in the situation to know, because I've taken my school to task for a number of things over the years of a lot less severity than this. I know what I know I wouldn't do is look at a fact and say, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
Or bet or post a meme. I'll report something. It'll be that I've had 7 correct reports in a row. I've nailed everything. Same guy. I'll be in there all 7 times. Liar, no sources, whatever. What happens on story number 8? He's back.
Liar.
I'm not wired that way. I would have learned my lesson 6 trolls ago. First of all, I'm not going to call it out blindly. I'm not going to call somebody a liar unless I'm pretty sure. I'm certainly not going to call them a liar 6 times in a row when they've been right all 6 times. And where's the apology? Like, where are these guys? Where's the apology to Buckeye Scoop for some of the stuff they've nailed? Where's these people be sending me baskets of goodies and stuff that I don't need because I'm trying to lose a few. It's absurd that they're not apologizing.
Yeah,
I would just take them going away. But it's so. I know I give long answers to every short question, but I don't know exactly how I would react. I know I wouldn't do what they do because I don't look at stuff that's objective facts and say, oh, no, that's 2 + 2 is 5. I don't do that. They do.
Yeah. Amen.
You got to answer your own question, Dev.
Well, I mean, at this point in time, we haven't even hit another subject that I'm about to ask about. But, I mean, I would be furious. I would be furious, and I would want something done about it. I'm not going to – I wouldn't come on my show and bash my own program, but I'm not going to defend an obvious fact of – I'm not going to come on here and say, hey, man, they didn't get tattoos. I'm going to come on here and say, hey, hopefully we could I just want to move forward from this, right? Mistakes were made. Something happened. We need to move forward from this and move on. But like Spiro said, I mean, even during that time, I was in something personal going on in my life. I really wasn't that connected back then to the program. But it's hard to say what I do, but I'm with Spiro. I would not deny that. I'm not going to get on here and say, oh, the cheating, it didn't have that much effect on the game. I'm not going to tweet bet after my president of the school tweets bet. You know what I mean? I honestly would not do that. And I would like my explanation as to why I'm upset about all this stuff is because what it did to people, that's where my mind's going to go. and my morals come before any team that I root for. My beliefs and my character come before any of this, this show, all of that. My faith comes before anything in my life, and I will not break those things for even Ohio State. It's not happening.
But Dev, what you're missing on this is, and good for you, you're honorable. I believe I would be the same way. I'd like to think.
Yeah.
Even if you weren't, you could say all that stuff, and you're just in the normal 95% of crazy fandom. Say bet. Say, oh, it didn't impact games. That's fan twisty nonsense. That's not the stuff I'm talking about. I'm talking about stuff like Spiro has no sources. He doesn't know anything. He's lied about everything. When there's 6 pieces of evidence of me nailing things weeks in some cases before anybody else, months in one case. That's like, you wouldn't make up a lie or spread something with no evidence that would get somebody death threats. You might say, oh, the cheating didn't matter that much. You're not going to falsify allegations just to deflect attention off what you did. By the way, even if the allegation is true, who cares who the whistleblower is? But I digress. This is what we're talking about. So good on both you. I'd like to put myself in the righteous brother category. I really believe I would handle things much better. But what I'm 100% sure is that I wouldn't lie. I wouldn't falsify allegations. There's people I really, really, really don't like, and I report the truth on them. I give the full nuance. Even with the Sharon Moore, I was the one that broke that story 2 days before ESPN. They mocked me for the Sharon Moore deleted text thing. Even in that report, I said one of the sources on the Michigan side believes the texts were innocuous. Believes. That's what they were told. I reported that. If I just wanted Michigan to burn, although I do, I wouldn't have included that fact. I would have cut out the last paragraph. But I try to be fair. So however we would react, what I'm pretty sure of you guys and positive with myself is we're not going to lie or look at something and say, oh, that's not what it is. We have to live in an objective reality. I could deal with arguing the nuance about how much it mattered, even though it's not really relevant in terms of punishment and enforcement anyway. But we can have that water cooler discussion. But if you're going to tell me that, oh, the thing in the jug isn't water, it's sand, I can't. Yeah. What are we doing? I can't talk to you. And that's not just fringe people. That's the majority of them. That's not an exaggeration. That's most of them. So they're crazy.
I know. Back in the day, I would have been on that of arguing how much did it affect or not. But I didn't get to that stuff in my explanation because, for me, Jesus changed my life. So that's where I'm at now. I would never even that wouldn't even be in the realm for me. I would stop at arguing on how much the cheating affected the game or not. Now, back in the day, 6 years ago, I'm arguing how much the cheating affected the game or not. I'm there. You know what I'm saying? But
that's normal stuff. What's not normal is denying objective reality.
100%. That's
why these people should be committed to an asylum, because they're nuts. And if you can't call 2 + 2 4, if you're gonna call me a liar 7 times in a row when I've been vindicated the first 6 times, what are we doing here? Like, you can't. Why would I even engage with these people? The only times I do is to make fun of them and sort of shine a light on them. But there's no serious discussion to be had there.
Yeah. Well, dude, the light really got shown here recently with something. It's not new news because this was one of the first things that got reported on, Matt Weiss and, the allegations of how this, sign stealing ever even came to the light in the first place. Whistleblower, FBI doing an investigation and finding something when they were investigating Matt Weiss, something like that. But when this stuff came out and I saw reactions of some people wanting to talk about, stuff, though, there's no proof that Ohio State does, it may be even more disgusting. My question to you, to kind of lead into this topic, I do have another question about it. My first question is, do you believe that they're related in the sense that this is possible what stirred up this sign stealing investigation in the first place, the investigation into Matt Weiss?
Well, I mean, I feel like I'm tooting my own horn, but I really like to just rub it in their faces for the record. I'm not arrogant as much as I like to remind them how stupid they are. I broke that story too. I broke that story in 23. And another example of me, I do what's right and tell the facts. I said that there's no correlation with this investigation to the cheating scandal. It's completely unrelated. I would have loved to. I could have just let that out. I didn't have to lie. I could have just lied through omission and excluded that fact and reported that, there was computer access crimes and he had hacked people's accounts. I had all that information. It was all part of the report. I reported the fact that there was not a understood tie. So, which is true. There is not, or at least certainly was not. Now, what I've always said about this, he's clearly got an ability. He's a smart, respected coach, or was from a football acumen standpoint. He clearly has the ability and has proven it repeatedly, thousands of times, to access accounts improperly. Could he incidentally see something, or after he's done doing whatever he's doing with these pictures, hey, what's looking this folder while I'm on the server? Like, sure. I reported originally when I broke the story a year and a half before anybody.
Yeah.
That's not what this was about. If there is an element of that, it's incidental. He was flagged for the improper access of female student athletes across the country, which I reported. That's what he was in trouble for. That's what got him. There was some alert with the system breach of him accessing accounts improperly. I believe I had to go back through my notes when I first did the interview with the first source on it. I believe there were a couple complaints about improper access or suspicious activity. I believe that was the origin of it, but it was certainly a component. So, I know the Buckeye Scoop guys, who I respect. I consider them friends at this point. I know, they're of the belief that there's some improper stuff that took place there. I've never said they're wrong or there definitively isn't. If that comes out, I will not have been wrong. I just can't speak to it. I report what I know, and I don't report what I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I have not been told that. I've been told that this entire origin, and it is true it'll be all true in all the indictments and the cases. There's nothing about football in there. So I don't have anybody telling me, look, I'm telling you he didn't do anything wrong with football. Who knows what they're going to find? If you're doing this stuff over the course of years, it's almost hard to believe that he didn't do something football improper once. Like if you're already on like an Ohio State server, I don't know. But That's not the crux of this. That's not what he was doing. If he did do anything like that, I don't believe anybody has that for a fact now. Who knows what will happen? You're talking about years. They haven't even finished investigating this, is what I was told about a week ago. It's like going through the JFK files because he was doing it for so long, every day or almost every day for years. Think about how much stuff that is to go through. So it's not what happened here. It's not even a large part of it. If there is something, it's incidental. I don't have any evidence of that, but I don't have anybody telling me definitively not either. So I'm trying to give an honest answer. So I just would say I don't believe so, but I wouldn't rule it out because if you're doing that kind of stuff and you're a smart coach and you're already on servers, you can get on them in 2 seconds. You're clearly not a good guy because you're doing this in the first place. What's to stop you? I don't know, but I'm an evidence guy. I don't we got enough to hang him on. We don't need speculation. I have enough hard evidence to hang him, so I don't even need that. But I will be following it, though, with interest.
Yeah. Mello?
That's interesting. So, do you think a part of the resolution we'll see Jay and Jim Harbaugh with more show clauses?
Harbaugh's done. He's not going to be. I mean, even if he wanted to come back, he'll be done. He already has one. I mean, it's not in effect yet, but that's like he does have one, and will. So Jay, sure. Some of these guys are playing ball. Like, I mean, Jesse Minter is playing ball in discussions with the NCAA because he's smart. I mean, he wants to keep the door open in case. Harbaugh's not wired that. Harbaugh's like, I'm never going back to college, so what do I care? So he'll never go back. He'll retire when he's done coaching. He's not going back, so he doesn't care. Someone like Jesse Minter cares. Denard Robinson, who's not even part of the program anymore because of his own legal issues, get in line with everybody else over there. He's negotiating, he's playing ball. So, I don't know what is going to be handed down on the guys that are playing ball. Jim's done. I mean, he's got no shot. And he doesn't. Yeah. But that's the thing. It's like they use this as these Michigan fans use this as some source of pride. Oh, does it affect him? Yeah, but it affects you guys. Like if somebody did that to me, oh yeah, like even Tom Mars' agent or his attorney rather, that's his attorney. He's supposed to represent him, so I don't have a problem with it. But he echoed what a lot of these other people are saying. oh, you think he cares with his $9 million salary or whatever he got paid? You know, he's living in Southern California. It's like, yeah, bully for him. That's not a win for you guys. It's like, if you're Tom Mars, it's a good argument. You only care about Jim Harbaugh as your client. I don't know why you guys are using this as a source of pride. He left you high and dry. I mean, were USC fans saying, Pete Carroll, he got paid? See, I don't know. They were pissed about what happened. And I don't blame them. So again, you're not dealing with normal people here, though. He's not a coach that left them high and dry. He's like the cult leader.
Yeah.
So there's something that hasn't been talked to or brought up in a long while, and it kind of like just hit the back burner for everybody. But I've never forgotten about it, and I wanted to get your opinion and your thoughts on the Blake Corum LLC and what's going on with that.
It's going to be bad if it goes to discovery. That is the core of what I shared with the NCAA and the rock that I told them to look under if they want the answers. And I know they have some components of this. I feel like I'm taking credit for it. There's plenty that I haven't broken on this, but a lot I have. And that's another component that I reported that was piggybacked by Dan Wetzel and Ross Dellinger at Yahoo. Wetzel just went to ESPN, but at the time Yahoo, where they reported this Uncle T component. Now, I didn't use the name Uncle T or name anybody because I didn't have that confirmed, and I don't name people unless I'm pretty damn sure. But I did know that a component of this was the funding. I reported this. The funding of it was coming in-house from a booster that had some connection. I did not have it firmed up that he was on the board of the Champion Circle, which that was Yahoo's reporting, credit to them. But I had it that the NCAA knew or had evidence of this being paid for by a booster with some type of official role. We later found out, thanks Yahoo, that it was an official board member. Again, not just a card-carrying member, a sitting board member at the time of their official NIL collective, and the reason why they retained that championship core. We talked about that earlier. So I'll just say, and I hinted at it earlier, the person that gave me a lot of this information wanted me to because of my relationship with them, wanted me to know so I knew, and wanted me to not say things that were wrong just because he values truth. He's one of the few people on that side that gives a crap about this stuff and being honest. And that's why he's working with me. He's actually ashamed of the school. He will not be the source of betrayal, but he's not going to perjure himself either. So we hit on that earlier. Yeah. So because of that, I can't tell you all the details, but I can tell you that there is evidence of this being paid for by the school, which Champion Circle, there's no divorce. It's the official partner. I mean, just like I own a nursing care facility. If one of my nurses, does something improper or stabs somebody or goes crazy, which has never happened, but if it did, it's like my company did it. It's not, I can't just say, oh, it's her, and I'm going to be named in the lawsuit and I'm going to lose. Like, so, or have to pay to settle. So the school, it's the same thing. Like if a nurse in a building does it, the company did it. And that's the case with anything. And that's the case here. It's an official partner. It's not even like an outside vendor. It's a partner and funder of the program. So they know that this was paid for by the school. The NCAA knows this. They have some evidence to it. They don't have all the evidence. They have some and enough to come to this conclusion. And I can almost guarantee that'll be in their final report.
And that's my last question to that.
Yeah.
So would that, in essence, make Blake Corum ineligible his last season?
That's the question. That is, and people speak to even taking Tim Smith out of it. The LLC with Stallions, which doesn't have an official on paper tie to Uncle T or anybody else other than the three parties, which are, Stallions, high school buddy Stallions, and Corum. Does that in it of itself declare him ineligible? Well, it's definitely against school policy. There's no hard line where it's clear. And I've looked and I've asked my people in compliance about this. I was told from a compliance guy at Michigan City, actually left 2 years ago now, I think, but he was there for years. He said it's probably an issue in terms of eligibility, but not definitively. The language isn't clear, and that would be another thing that would be challenged. So I wish I could give a clear answer on that, but the problem is a clear answer doesn't exist. There is a belief that it would probably render him ineligible. But what would definitely cause major concern and vacated wins, I would argue, would be the school paying for stuff. Like University of Missouri basketball had to vacate an entire season. It was a Stan Heat team. It wasn't a great team, but it had good years. Like they were 21-10 or something like that. Whole thing got wiped out. And the NCAA's ruling was, paraphrasing a little bit, but was improper and inadequate supervision of boosters. This is a lot worse than that. I mean, this is the school. This isn't like some booster off on the side. This is the school paying for it and then lying about it, by the way. All of them. Quorum lied about it. Assuming this is all true, which wink, wink. I mean, the NCAA knows. So probably, but there's no, I would love there to be a rule, like a bylaw that says like, hey, if you're in business with a staffer, automatic ineligibility. That language isn't in there, but it will go into like, what was the nature of it? Was there an inducement? Was there any quid pro quo? Like there's stuff we would have to have more information. So like if you're in high school on the exam, it's like you would circle D, not enough information to answer. It opens up, most doors would lead to ineligibility. Most of them. There's not a lot of ways that makes sense that wouldn't violate something that would trigger ineligibility, but we don't know that for sure. At least I don't. If the NCAA knows it, that's relatively new information. But the school paying for it, they know. And there's a lot more evidence if they just turn over the rock that I gave them, which they will, I believe, if it goes to depositions.
Yeah. There is so many things we can talk about. I have like 3 more things written down, but we're going to start to wrap up here, and I'm going to end with the thing I told you I was going to ask you about. I saw you on the Scoop Show in the chat at one time talking about Jim Harbaugh and something you wanted to talk about. You'd mentioned you can't get into everything right now, but can you share with us what you can share with us about what you wanted to talk about Jim Harbaugh?
Yeah, and I mean, the only reason I can't get into everything is because I want to make sure I have all the facts right. And, I didn't know way in advance we were talking about it and there's a lot of detail in it. So it's not about like I'm being coy or like, I'm betraying a source or anything like that, because this was at one time a public report that anybody could find if they knew where to look. But it's not easy to find, but findable. And I have the proof. And that'll be part of the thread that I post. We talked before the show. I'm probably going to present it as a thread. I originally was going to do a video. A lot of people don't watch videos. It's fine. So I'll preface by saying if I screw up any dates or minor details, I'm telling you right now, please forgive me. I have the crux of it. But I did pull up the name of the article. So I was close when we were talking before the show. I was only off by 1 year in terms of the timeline. So this was the headline in the Detroit News on June 1st of 2000. Jim Harbaugh was still playing at this time at the end of his career. The headline is Harbaugh Charity, stingy on giving fund created by former U of M quarterback, donates just 21 cents of every dollar raised. This article, which was published, but at the time Harbaugh was well out of Michigan. Most Michigan fans, like kids, didn't even see him play. He's at the end of a long NFL career. I think he's like 15 years into his career at that point. I don't even remember the story coming out. I shared it with a couple of Michigan people. They have zero recollection of this because it wasn't that big of a deal. If this story came out anytime in the last, and even when he became an NFL coach, it would have been cover of ESPN. So this article, and it has all the evidence in the quotes, Harbaugh was running what certainly appears to be a complete sham charity, almost complete. There was some legitimate, they said 21 cents for every dollar. I believe the article says at the time the national average was like 76 cents or 74 cents. Here's where I get back into the details that I'll have right when I publish it, but off the cuff, I don't remember exactly. But it's an abysmal performance. So he was running a sham charity, it appears. And the allegation was well sourced and documented with evidence, with filings. This stuff is all public. And he was effectively funneling money to his friends and the athletic department. They have the receipts. They have, I believe it was $15,000 at one point in one cycle to the U of M athletic department. He was hiring friends to run basketball camps, like expensive basketball. He was like funding the whole thing. It was a kickback to the school. So he's taking money, telling people, hey, we're helping underprivileged kids, and paying Michigan and paying his friends, like close associates of him. It was a grift, and he was essentially stealing from underprivileged youth and defrauding his own charity for improper purposes. And he was in this with one other person. I'll have that person's name in the thing that I post. So it was just two people running it. It's not in other words, it's not some big entity where Harbaugh was just the game. He had to sign off on everything. It's his friends that are getting the checks. He knew about it. He was the one signing these checks. Only two people even had the power to do it. And it's not a coincidence that this money was going to friends and associates of his. So he's basically running it and got busted for it. And then his partner in this is quoted in the article saying, basically admitting that, yeah, they've made mistakes and there's filing errors and some of this money's being tucked away for different funds down the line. But it's if you already wrote the check to Michigan football, what are you talking about? What does that have to do with children's charity? So people were donating thousands of dollars and he was diverting it to friends of his and the athletic department and the football program in particular. What does that say about the character of the man?
Right.
Yeah.
That goes hand in hand with what's going on currently.
That's the worst thing he's done. He's stealing from underprivileged poor kids. And at the time, he's an NFL quarterback. He made millions of dollars. It's the worst thing he's done on a moral level. And I found the article because I'm good at what I do. I didn't break the story, though. It's not my reporting, but all the evidence is in the Detroit News. It's not some blog. And they admitted to improper stuff. They denied the intent was malicious, but how do you explain that? How do you raise money for underprivileged, sick kids, whatever it was, and you're paying your best friend to run some sham basketball camp? You're writing checks to the university from the charity. You're running about a third of the national average, not even the good charities, the national average. You're running a third of that goes to actual legitimate charitable sources. It was a scam. And I believe it got shut down. I know it got dissolved. Not shut down by the government, but they shut it down preemptively with some of the stuff going on. I'm trying to find some of the filings on that. Obviously, that stuff came after the article, so it's not all there. There's other investigative work to go there. But yeah, how many people out there know that Jim Harbaugh ran, definitively, we have the proof, a sham charity and was stealing from sick kids or underprivileged kids? Nobody knows that. Nobody knows that.
Except for you.
Dude, that's just
I'm not the only one. And you guys and anyone listening and the couple people I talked to. I told you, I asked Michigan people that one of them was at the school at the time, and obviously Harbaugh's in the NFL. But I'm like, do you even remember this? It just, nobody remembers it. I have a friend at the Detroit News now who was still there then. He doesn't remember it. It was in his paper. So it just, is it some bombshell where, go arrest him? No. But it is another sort of brick on this, foundation of the immoral, unethical, moral turpitude here. I mean, just it's arguably the worst thing he's done. I think it is the worst thing he's done that we know of.
That brings up a whole nother aspect that we won't really get into, but the way that this whole thing has been covered by some of the national media, you feel in any other circumstance, this is getting dug into and brought up in national media. Jim, with the 4 or 5 times he's been mentioned on different occasions while being the coach. You're telling me nobody in the national media knew about this and would bring this up and be like, oh, no surprise, Jim Harbaugh's telling his staff not to worry about the NCAA rules and break the rules. This is what he did June 1st of 2000. It's kind of wild that this has only ever been talked. My first time hearing it is on a show with you, and it brings a whole other aspect of how this has been reported about in the national media. That's wild, dude. Yeah, because
I wipe the floor with these people in my free time. This isn't my job. If you paid me to do this stuff, sorry, I know it's a good Christian show. If you paid me to do this stuff, sit around all day and work on this stuff, I can't even imagine what I would find. I work all day and then I do this stuff. And I'm mopping the floor with these dopes. They don't report anything accurately. But I'll give them a little grace on this because it's even people that I know that hate Michigan and are at, in one case at the newspaper where this was published and was at the time even, they didn't even know about it. So I don't know that it's this conscious. It's just 2000 was a little bit of a different time. No Twitter, no social media, no outrage.
Yeah.
I'm maybe not jumping to quite as a nefarious conclusion as you are, but what I will jump to in a very conclusion is the total ignorance of the national media. If, full disclosure, my best friend, who's actually a Michigan alum, but he's one of the honest ones, married Brady Quinn's sister, AJ Hawk. Your alumnus married the other sister. He has two. I'm friends with Brady. We stood up and I was best man in my best friend's wedding. He was in the wedding party. There's pictures of all. I have a great relationship with Brady. Love him. Not knocking him. But he's a perfect example of what happened here. He went on Fox Sports, both radio and television, and said, this is right after the cheeseburger gate punishments were handed down. And he said, this is absurd. Why would you have this level of punishment because one rogue guy went sign stealing? He wasn't even talking about the right scandal. He didn't even know. Yeah. And I talked to him, and he's like, oh, I wasn't aware. And no one on the show corrected him. It wasn't just him. It was like on the radio show example, there were at least two other guys, I think three. It's on YouTube. You look it up. The radio hit. There's two guys there that cover this on Fox Sports Radio. They didn't even know to correct him. So like he's saying the wrong thing. These other two guys, not some podcast, they're on national TV in one case on Fox. They didn't even know that it was a different scandal, irrespective of the fact that it wasn't one rogue guy and there's multiple people named in all these reports. Like, even if that part were true, he didn't even fundamentally understand that the punishments that they discussed the YouTube clip's like 17 minutes long. They're talking about, is this too much punishment for sign stealing? That's not what it was for. Anyone can go look. Like, is that not this whole thing in a nutshell? Three guys on a national show are sitting there for an entire segment talking about the draconian punishment of something that it's not even what happened. We still don't even know the punishment of that. Like, that's just an example of this whole thing in a nutshell. They don't know. And anybody that knows what happened or even a component of it does not disagree with me. If you know the facts and the scale and the scope, you can't argue it. But they don't know. And they don't want to know, in my opinion.
There it is right there. Yep. 100%, man. Fire stuff, as always, dude. I could sit here and talk for a while, man. I know you could too. I know you love it, dude. I see your passion.
You wind me up, man. You guys could have walked away. It could have been like there's something about Mary the therapist, like goes takes lunch and Ben Stiller's talking to himself for an hour. You guys could have laughed. I wouldn't have even recognized that you had laughed.
Yeah,
I appreciate the the runway you guys give me. I know I'm talkative, but this stuff matters, and it really should matter most to you guys. If I were you guys, people think I'm mad now. I'd be apoplectic because you guys suffered here. I didn't say my suffering is just the principle of it and how appalling it is. And I don't really like them to begin with, and I'm holding them to account. You guys were actual victims. I wasn't. My school sucked anyway. Yeah. You guys suffered for this, and people you care about, your coach and their families, suffered for this. So as mad as I am, if I were you guys, I'd be tenfold what I am now. So no one should be more aggrieved than you guys. And anyone telling you, quit crying, quit complaining about it, let it go. Don't buy into that. Don't let them gaslight you. That's what abusers do, where they're going to steal from your pocket and just run roughshod over you for years and then tell you you're crazy for having an issue with it. The facts are on your side, my side, and on the side of anyone that cares about the truth and righteousness and fair play. We all know college athletics, there's a thin line between a lot of this stuff. Not in this case. They're 3 football fields past that line. They don't care about the line. They mock the line. They've been wrong about everything they've said for 3 years. I've been right. Buckeyes have been right. So, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm happy to smack them around. But you guys should care more. If you're a Buckeye and you're not appalled by this, you guys, this is the last thing I'll say. We didn't even talk about the money. How many T-shirts are sold? How many specials run? How much gear and merch, and they're charging tickets to events. Their autographs are worth more money, whereas the Ohio State players can't charge as much for an autograph show because C.J. Stroud didn't beat Michigan ever. These guys have to go. AJ talked about it on my show a couple years ago before this even happened. We were talking about the 2-game losing streak at the time. Now I don't consider them losses. These guys have to. I think he said he went 3-1. These guys show up at these Ohio State events. If they win over against Michigan, they're humiliated that most of them don't even want to show up. There's guys that can't come to these Buckeye events with their heads held high when they're 70 years old because of this. I don't have that problem. No one else has that problem. Buckeyes have that problem. Nobody should care more than you guys. If you care about your people, your staff, your players, their families who have been threatened over this with their lives, you should be appalled. And I think most of you are, to your credit. So I do appreciate letting me help you smack them around. It's just in the name of truth and honor, and it's a disgrace what they've done.
And I am appalled. That's why I can't wait to see the comments on this show about how we can't keep their name out of our mouth and we can't move on, the loss, all these superficial comments. And you've explained it more beautifully than I ever have about why are we mad? Because it affected us the most, not just because we're rivals and we don't like you to begin with. That's superficial. You stay in your superficial world. That doesn't bother me. I'll live in reality over here about the people's lives that this thing affected is why I'm furious. Am I mad because we didn't win a title in the Big Ten? Yeah, I'm mad, but I'm furious about what this did to our players and our coaches and our coaches' families, Ryan Day's wife and his kids. Not only what it did to them during the time, but what it's going to do to them forever, because that's how deep this thing goes, especially if your career is in the Ohio State head coach or the Ohio State quarterback. You said it. 70 years from now, they're not going to be able to walk in to a Buckeye place with their head held high that C.J. Stroud, one of the best quarterbacks to ever come through Ohio State, look at him doing an NFL, is going to have to live with this because we got some lowlifes that can't just win in a fair way. But Spiro Mello, you got any closing thoughts?
Oh, yeah, they stole multiple Heismans from CJ. His draft stock slid. A lot of people's draft stock slid. Coaches got fired behind all of this. Like, people think that it's just about, well, the Team Up North fans think, oh, we just kicked your butt on the field and that's all it's about. No, it's not about that. You're missing the bigger picture. See, you guys were so used to getting the mess kicked out of you for the past 20 years that all you want to do is grasp one till we won. That's why Connor's a hero to you, because you guys have, in your lifetime, most of their lifetime, they haven't seen the Team Up North as winners. So,
and that goes to my school too. We kicked the crap out of them for 15 of those 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
So don't forget that. And you guys did a better job because you never lost other than the Fickle year. But we were like 11-4 against them in a stretch. So it's like and don't think that didn't bother them too. We were a combined like 26-4 against them at one point. It was humiliating. So you guys, and the irony of it is that when you guys were on that decades-long run of just stomping them, kicking them in, you had national success and regional success in the rivalry. What did they say? You guys are cheating, cheaters. OSU. Yep. The irony is that was their go-to based on either no evidence or Jim Tressel covering up something that provides no on-field advantage whatsoever. But the second they actually have their head coach telling a staffer directly, I don't care about the rule, get that kid on campus anyway. That's just scandal number one. Where the staffer is telling him, Coach, sir, Mr. Harbaugh, if we bring this kid on campus, that's an NCAA violation. I'm not comfortable with that. I don't care, do it anyway. So not only like the irony of them saying, hey, don't complain about cheating, quit your whining, when that's all they did based on one scandal, which was after the fact, that conferred no benefit whatsoever, and it was much shorter in frame. It's one event, not 50 games illegally scouted. How the nerve to tell us to stop complaining about their cheating when that's all they talked about for 20 years. So they're absurd. They're crazy. You guys are lucky because you root for the best program in America. I'm jealous, and I wish I could have your success in football. But, congrats to you guys again, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. I wish I would have seen you guys win. I watched that game, the NCAA tournament. But, hey, congratulations on the success you did have. A lot of programs didn't make it that far. You guys did, man. We appreciate you, Spiro. Go check him out on Twitter. We know that's not why you're on here for any shout-out. You don't need a shout-out from us, man. You're well-known. We appreciate what you do. Appreciate you coming on here. Like this video. Share it for us if you would. On that note, we love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Go Buckeyes. OH.
Go Green.
IO.